Hello everyone, it's Mari and I'm back with another episode of Tried, Trendy, and True. And today I'm going to be making a shape card for you. This is a really cool die set from Honeybee Stamps. It's called the Birthday Cake die set. And what's really cool about this is this die that I'm going to show you here actually cuts out the base for your card to create a shape card. And this card is in the shape of a birthday cake. I think this is a really cool trend. I really love it. Shape cards are super fun. This set also has some coordinating stamp and die sets that I'm going to be showing you as well. I'm going to start off here by putting a piece of white cardstock into my MISTI, and I'm going to use the coordinating stamp set Make-A-Wish to stamp out some pieces for the inside of my cake. And my cake is actually going to be a really interesting layer cake with all kinds of different layers in it. So I'm actually going to use almost every one of these layer stamps here for my cake. I'm going to take each one of these different strip stamps and I'm going to stamp these out with a rainbow order of color. You're just watching me here take each one of these different stamp strips off of the packaging. These are really nice photopolymer acrylic stamps, or photopolymer stamps, I should say. And you can just see that each one of these different stamps has a different pattern on it. So you could stamp these up in a bunch of different ways to create whatever type of layer cake that you want. I did stamp out all of these layers, but I don't end up using that very last one there because you'll notice that the layer cake only has 5 layers and there's actually 6 stamps. So you could use the same type of layer. So if you wanted this to be just a marble layer cake, you could just use that marble stamp and stamp that out 5 times. So I'm using some Distress ink cubes here to ink up each one of my different stamps, like I said before, in rainbow order. So I show you each one of the colors of these cubes as I'm stamping these out here. Love my MISTI for stamping out this type of thing, or really anything, because it allows you to restamp if the inking isn't quite dark enough or solid enough. And I definitely had to do that with each one of these different stamps. I only show you stamping it once, but I did ink these up multiple times to get a solid image. So just love the different options that you have with each one of these different layers. Now, I don't know about you, but shape cards are just really, really fun. And there's all kinds of different options for creating a shape as the base of your card. And I just thought that this one is just really original and really interesting, having a birthday cake as the shape of the card. And I'll also show you in the video here today how this actually fits perfectly into an A2 size envelope, which is a real bonus. So here you can just see there's my green color. I'm going to finish off with blue to complete the rainbow order here for these different images. Now there is a die that cuts out these strips. So what you could do is die cut out the strips first and then stamp them, but I chose not to do that. I decided not to use the die that's part of the birthday cake die set to cut these strips out. I'm just going to cut them with my trimmer here, and this is really quick and easy to do. It didn't take me long at all. The nice thing about using the trimmer rather than scissors is it does make it a little bit easier to get these nice and straight and relatively even as far as the width of the strips goes. And so like I said, you do have the option of die cutting out your strips and then stamping them onto the cardstock that way, so that allows you to use the die in that way. Love this little Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer. It does really help me die cut these out super quickly, and if I do get it a little bit off, it's really easy to straighten that up just by putting it back in the trimmer and trimming off anything that is just a little bit not straight. And just going to trim off the ends as well of each piece of the layers of this cake. So really super cute and just love it. So I'm going to finish up here. You'll just see me completing that series of cuts on each one of these different layers for my 5-layer cake. Gosh, I wish I had a 5-layer cake for my birthday. Maybe I will, who knows? So here you go. Just going to finish this up here, trimming up all of the different ends and so on, getting this all nicely trimmed and straight. Love those little speckles. I think that's really fun. And the sky's the limit with your creativity here for how you want to create your little layer cake. So I'm going to pop up each one of the layers with some foam adhesive here. I wanted to create some dimension on my card front, so I'm going to achieve that by adding just a little bit of foam adhesive in that way. So you can just see me here. I've got 4 little pieces of foam dots using my honeybee reverse tweezers here to just help me pick that up. I think end up flipping the card around just to make sure that I get this straight on the right end of the card. And what's really cool too about that die is the birthday cake die actually embosses where the layers of the cake go. So there's no guessing to keep your layers straight. You just use those lines that are embossed on the shape base to help you line up where these different layers go. And you can see that first layer is just a really pretty swirly pink layer. Now I'm going ahead and adding the second layer here with the foam adhesive in exactly the same way. So just going to add each one of the layers with that dimensional adhesive to make those layers just pop off of the card. Super, super fun. So you can imagine you could make this a chocolate cake. You could make your icing a colorful color. I just wanted to go with a white base completely so that it looks like a white frosting on the cake. And then of course the layers are the colorful part here, but you could really, be super creative with this and add all kinds of different aspects to it. So now that I have that all finished up, I'm ready to add something to the top of the cake. So I'm going to take the stamp from Make-A-Wish and I'm going to stamp out an image for the top portion. And this is meant to look like icing or some sort of decorative detail added to the top of the cake. And I'm going to stamp this out with some brown ink. I didn't like the color of the frayed burlap, so I added some ground espresso over top of that just to make it look more like chocolate. And I'm just going to stamp that out just to make it look like I have a chocolatey top of just a little bit of icing detail on the top of my cake. Now I am actually going to just fussy cut this out, and I did use my trimmer for part of it and then my scissors for fussy cutting part of it as well. Super easy to do, and you could also just stamp this directly onto the cake portion, but again you can see that there are lines that are scored on the actual cake base that are from that die that allow you to line up this piece. And I'm going to just go ahead and adhere that onto the top of my cake. I think this is just adorable. I love this shape card so much. I think it's just really cool. Now, I did want to also show you that there's some really fun other details as part of this die. There's a candle that you can die cut out. There's some sprinkles. There's some whipped topping as well. I die cut out the whipped cream using that die and some white cardstock, and I'm going to add those to the top of my cake. And I also decided to add the candle in a color cardstock. So at first I die cut it in white, but then I changed my mind and I die cut it in some color cardstock. I'll show you that here in just a second. I'm going to adhere this first bit of whipped topping with a little bit of liquid adhesive and get that in place, and I'll add the other edge of the whipped cream with liquid adhesive as well, and the one that's in the middle I will pop that up with a little bit of foam adhesive just to create a little bit of dimension for that whipped topping in that way. So that one's actually going to go in the center. I'll get this other little piece adhered with my liquid adhesive as well. Get that added down, and that will take care of those little bits of detail on the top of my sweet little birthday cake here. So this one here again just will be popped up just a little bit there just to create that little bit of depth and space between the other two pieces. Now I did cut this out of some Gina K cardstock. That's the, I think it's called Raspberry. I love this color of blue, and it really matched that ink that I used for the bottom layer of my cake, the Mermaid Lagoon. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that with a little bit of foam adhesive. I do have to trim my foam adhesive down here a little bit because a little bit of it is hanging over the edge. So I can just see that there. I'm going to have to take that off and just trim that down a little bit. I tried to move it down thinking that would be okay, but I didn't like that the candle was sticking into that first layer. I just thought that looked weird. So I just end up taking that off, and I will just go ahead and trim that little bit of foam adhesive off so that that piece is just the perfect length for that candle. But I love that you could, die cut out as many candles as you want to decorate your cake. And it's just a really sweet little embellishment for the top of this card. And then I'll just use that little flame piece that's a separate die with the set, and I will adhere that on with a little bit of liquid adhesive. I just added some color to the white die cut flame piece with my not twisted citron, but squeezed lemonade distress ink, and that way it matches the yellow in the stamping. I'm just going to go ahead and flip that over. I'm using my Marvy Jewel picker here to add that onto the flame. I love how that looks. I think it's really cute. How sweet is this card? I think it is so adorable. And I just have a sentiment now that I want to add to the front of my project. Now I'm going to be using the Birthday Wishes stamp and coordinating die set from Honeybee to add my sentiment. I love that large scripty birthday, and then I love how the regular font of the other words in the sentiments just complement this script so well. That's in a few of the different sentiments here in the set. So I'm going to use Happy Birthday as the sentiment for my project here. I've got my Mini Misty out here and a little bit of white cardstock. I'm going to stamp that out with a little bit of VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. This is just a really, really nice crisp ink, and if you wanted, you could actually emboss using this ink as well. If you wanted to use a little bit of clear embossing powder, just add a little bit more dimension. I don't do that for this project, but you definitely could do that as well. Just using my Tailored Expressions tool here to press on that. I love that really nice crisp image that I get. I'm going to just stamp it out one more time just to make sure it's all really nice and solid. And then I will be ready to die cut these sentiments with the coordinating die set. I love that Honeybee has a coordinating die set for virtually all of their sentiment sets. I think it's just really handy to be able to just perfectly die cut these out in that way. So I'm going to just line these dies up over top of the sentiments and use a little bit of low tack tape to keep that in place. And I'll be ready to just run this through with a single pass through my Gemini Junior, and I'll have just some really lovely sentiments for the front of my project. So you'll just see me here adding a little bit of that low tack tape to each one of those. Even though I'm working with a magnetic platform here, I like to just give a little bit of low tack tape there to ensure that it stays in place. Really cool that this shape card sits nice and straight on your counter or wherever you like to display your cards. It's perfectly flat on the bottom so that when you open it up and go to, display it, it is going to sit perfectly on any flat surface. I'm just using a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of the birthday sentiment here to add a little bit of dimension to the sentiment. I'm just using my craft pick here to help me place those. I'll take the release paper off the back of that foam adhesive and go ahead and place that onto the front of my card. There's tons of space to put this on the card. You could literally put it wherever you would like. I thought I wanted to just put it directly down and centered with that candle at the top of the card, just putting it kind of like in the center of the cake. And then I'll add that happy just above it. I will add a little bit of foam adhesive to the word happy as well, and just pop that up so that it's equally dimensional as the word birthday. And I'm just going to use my precision tweezers here, my reverse tweezers, to help me place that on my card. And I love how that black ink just helps that sentiment pop off of that card base. I think it looks really pretty. I love how this card turned out. I love shape cards so much. I think they are super fun, a really great option. And there's tons of room on the inside of the card to put a sentiment for your whatever you want to put on the inside of that birthday card. Now I want to show you, this is a Honeybee envelope. I want to show you how easily this slides into an A2 size envelope, even with that candle hanging off of the top. It's super easy and slides right in there. Thanks so much, friends, for watching today. I really enjoyed sharing this shape card project with you today in another episode of Tried, Trendy, and True. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you again. Bye-bye.